Mark Schlereth is joining us now, Fox Sports analyst. He called the Bucs Falcons last week. So we were talking about the Bucs in Dallas, and the way it works in the NFL, generally, if you got a talented team and they get the you-know-what kicked out of them, the next week they play really well. So my guess is Dallas was awful. They'll come back focused, pissed off. They'll play great against Tampa. My argument against Tampa is I've watched them 9 times. There's just not a lot there. Do you think it's possible, you watch their first couple series, that they find this magic elixir and health and they just pop? Or is this just a year? It's just the chemistry, the coaching, the O-line. What did you make of what you saw? You've seen them a couple times.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing for me, Colin, is I think I saw in the fourth quarter against Carolina the Tampa Bay Buccaneers we've been waiting for all season. Dynamic, over the top to Mike Evans, Chris Godwin moving the chains on third down, Tom Brady accurate, throwing the deep ball. It really just felt like it clicked. Now, there's been a lot of issues from Tom Brady and all the personal issues early in the season. An offensive line that was completely restructured. You lost Aaron Stenny, who was going to be a starting guard for you. You lost Ryan Jensen, who was your starting center and really the tone setter of that whole offense, because that dude will play dirty. He'll play beyond the whistle. And he set the tone, the toughness tone for that offense. So a lot of things that they had to overcome. And I understand that part. And they struggled all season long. But just talking to Tom Brady about, hey, the receivers are healthy. This is the first time they've been healthy all year. We're starting to click. I think the big thing for me, Colin, and this will be interesting. The big thing for me, because offensively, they struggle with this new offensive line. By the way, Byron Leftwich says, hey, you know what? Everybody makes a big deal out of that we don't run the ball. We're 32nd rushing. It's not like we dropped from 8 to 32nd. We were 26th last year. We don't run the ball. We've never run the ball. So don't make a big deal of the fact that we don't run the ball. We never have. We don't care about it. Okay, so put that aside for a second. I think the biggest difference that Dallas is about to face, and they may not be ready for this, Tampa Bay under Todd Bowles has always been, as the defensive play caller, has always been one of the most aggressive, if not the most aggressive team in football when it comes to bringing pressure and blitzing the opponent. They have not been able to do that this year. Look at the numbers. Over 50% blitz the last 2 years, down to 30 to the high 20s this year. They have completely revamped what they do. Why? Because they can't afford to make a mistake on the defensive side of the ball, because this offense, 3 and out, can't put drives together, no sustainability, so they had to play conservative and safe. Now that they feel like, hey, man, we're flipping the switch on offense, we can throw it over the top, things are starting to come together, our defense now, we can get back to playing the way we have always played, the way that won us a world championship and the way that got us to the playoffs last year. Like, this is going to be a different defense on Sunday, or is it Saturday, whatever the game is, for the Dallas Cowboys.
The Harbaugh situation with Denver is fascinating. So J-Mac and I are believers is that the coach and the O-line were about 70% of the issues. Russell was 30%. So Harbaugh, to me, works because his whole career, Stanford, Niners, Michigan, he rebuilt offensive lines, created bully ball. And I do believe the way out of this mess for Denver to beat Mahomes and Herbert is keep them on the sidelines. It's bully ball. Javonte Williams, O-line, time of possession. That's literally what Harbaugh does. So I think he absolutely fits. And I also think, J-Mac and I believe, that with the right coach, remember he had Kaepernick, he had Andrew Luck. He likes mobile guys. He'll build stuff for them to move. Harbaugh does that. I think Denver showed signs of life. I think Harbaugh's the right choice. But you're in the belly of this thing. You're right in it. What are they saying in Denver? Are they encouraged with Russell Wilson? Give me a feel for the Broncos this morning because you're in Denver.
Yeah, I think you're right about Harbaugh. All the things you said about Harbaugh are 100% true. Some of the people that I've talked to, like our own Joel Klatt, says that Harbaugh's biggest wish would probably be to stay in Michigan, but they don't want to show him the love. I mean, he's paid about half of what the elite level coaches in the NCAA are paid right now.
Yeah.
So obviously there's something within the structure of Michigan that, and let's face it, Jim Harbaugh kind of is his own man, right? So he can rub you wrong. I get that. But for whatever reason, Michigan is not tripping over themselves to pay Jim Harbaugh a commensurate rate with what the other coaches at his level get paid. So it may be one of those things where they're forcing him out of Michigan into the arms of Denver. All those things you said about Denver are true. I think the last 2 weeks showed you with an adult coaching this football team in Jerry Rossberg and basically limiting Russell Wilson, essentially saying, hey, we're going to get you out of the pocket. We're going to design some runs for you. We're going to make you play that RPO game, and we're going to condense formations, make sure that you get post-snap reads of single high safety where you get one-on-one access on the outside and throw it deep. And they did that to perfection.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, we saw a deep ball. Russell Wilson's been known as the best deep ball thrower in football for the last decade. He couldn't throw deep at all this year.
Yeah.
Why? Because he wasn't in the right system. They went back to a system that fits Russell Wilson. And guess what? All of a sudden, Russell Wilson started to play well again. So I think he's fixable. I think he's got to be in the right structure. And I think all this talk about let Russ cook, you can put that to bed because he can't operate an offense like a Tom Brady or a Drew Brees. He's got to be in a specific offense. But in that offense, we saw the last couple of weeks that Jim Harbaugh would bring. He was really adequate and actually very good, especially with the deep ball.
Okay, so the Eagles are interesting. So all year up until Thanksgiving, healthy, no turnovers. Post-Thanksgiving, not healthy, turnovers. So Some of that is, Gardner Minshew's not obviously Jalen Hurts. So Jalen's back. And my takeaway, I have to ask you this based on your history. Go back to the Elway days. So did you ever start a season hot? Then it comes unglued, unraveled, some stuff Can they get back to October Philly? Because if they can, I think they can win the NFC. But I do wonder, it's been spotty. The turnovers are up. They won't have Lane Johnson. It doesn't feel like it felt 7-8 weeks ago, Mark. What say you on that? Can they reboot?
Yeah, I thought it was important that Jalen Hurts played last week.
So did I.
I thought that was important.
Yep.
Because they're going to get a bye week now, but I thought it was very important that he come out and play. It happened to us in Denver in 1997, our first championship run here in Denver. Late in the season, things weren't clicking as well. I had a couple of injuries. And, we took a game in Pittsburgh where we really got our asses kicked. And then a game in San Francisco where, again, we really got our asses kicked. And it was one of those kind of come to reality meetings that we had as a team. And kind of a refocusing, if you will, retooling, played pretty well toward the end of the season, the last couple of games of the season, and kind of got our focus back and then went into the playoffs, as a wild card team and ran roughshod through Jacksonville, then went up to Kansas City, beat them in Kansas City, a place that was really difficult to play for us, and then went to Pittsburgh and won an AFC championship there on our way to a Super Bowl championship over the Green Bay Packers. But it really was kind of the same scenario, turning the ball over. Attention to detail wasn't as good. And a couple of those beatings was a real good thing for us. Because all of a sudden you're like, okay, it's time to look at all the little things that you don't look at when you're winning. All the little mistakes. Hey, it's almost a joke, Colin. You'll go, oh, hey, we can't have that offsides here. We can't have that holding call here. And you're like, oh, yeah, we won by 15. It's like whatever. And then all of a sudden you lose a couple of those games and you're like, you know what? You're right. As a player, you go, coaches are right, as much as I hate to admit it. And we got to tighten the screws up a little bit. So I think this is a good thing for Philadelphia to kind of take one on the chin for a couple of games and kind of refocus and kind of look at themselves very critically.
Okay, the favorites this weekend, Niners, Chargers, Bills, Vikings, Bengals, Cowboys. Is there one underdog? The Seahawks, the Jags, the Dolphins, the Giants at Minnesota, Ravens, Cowboys. Is there a dog that's barking that you like this weekend?
Yeah, I like there's two on that list that I like a lot. I like Tampa Bay.
Woo!
I like Tampa Bay over Dallas. I think you're going to see a completely different defense. You're going to create some turnovers. Dak Prescott has been prone to throw the ball to the other team several times here over the late part of the season. I think you're going to see a little different defense, a little bit more aggressive defense, more pressure. I think you're going to see some receivers clicking with Tom Brady. So I think you're going to see a little different aspect. And I think you're going to see a couple wrinkles in the run game that they really haven't shown up to this point. So I think I like that. I also like the Giants. And I like the Giants from a coaching standpoint. I like their personality. There's a lot made of, Brian Dable and his halftime adjustments and how good he is and all that stuff. And so I asked Brian Dable about it. I go, well, tell me about your halftime adjustments. He goes, I go to Mike Kafka, our offensive coordinator. I said, hand it to 26 as many times as you can, because that's my halftime adjustment. He's like, this is not rocket science. This is the way we go about it. And think about this. Both of their starting corners were on other teams at the beginning of the year. Their starting safety was on another team at the beginning of the year. Their starting middle linebacker was on his couch in October, didn't have a job. A contributor at the safety position, Landon Collins, was on his couch in September, didn't have a job. Humbled himself. He was a former All-Pro player, went on practice squad. Their whole offensive line is, guys that didn't make it elsewhere except one first-rounder at the left tackle position, a first-rounder at the right tackle position too, but he's a rookie, and he's had his growing pains this year. Their quarterback is a guy that people didn't think could play. Their starting wide receiver was on Buffalo's practice squad in November. He's the guy that's Isaiah Hodgins is making all the plays for them. This is a ragamuffin group that has just taken that mantra, put it on their shoulder, and said, let's go out and play hard-nosed football. And I just respect the heck out of the New York Giants for what they've been able to do, because when you put their roster against the other rosters in the NFC or the AFC, it would be hard to say they had a better roster than anybody in the playoffs right now. As a matter of fact, I would say they have the worst roster in the playoffs, and it's a testament to them as men, the way they play this game, the hardcore physical nature that they play this game with, and to their coach who's got them believing.
Good stuff, Mark Schlereth. Good seeing you, buddy. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.